Hey everyone, welcome to the video. We are going to be doing a new thing today. A lot of you have asked us to put out like courses and videos and all this type of stuff of how to actually like build a plan, a financial plan, all this type of stuff. And instead of like doing courses and selling them and all that type of stuff, what I decided to do was take real examples of people that have built plans on our profiles and scheduled calls with our coach and stuff, and actually show you the quote unquote mistakes they were making and how to make the stuff more efficiently. So that way you can see yourself, okay, this is how I should be doing this, and these are some of the mistakes that I'm making as well. So that's what I'm going to go and walk through today. Today's the first one we've done. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, like it, comment on the video. It helps us grow. It helps also notify you when new videos come out, so be sure to subscribe. And let's jump into it. So just a little bit of background on this specific person. She graduated about a year and a half ago. Goal was to pay off student loans. But she built her plan, a lot of money going into her student loans. Recently, she had decided that in about a year from now, so this is December 2022, so December 2023, she wanted to potentially buy a house. Okay, so that's just a high-level background of what her intentions were. Okay, and you'll see that she makes a mistake that a lot of people make, okay? And that is they're not focused on their primary objective. Okay, so let's dive in. I'll show you what I mean by that. With this financial planning tool, you can see here that she added a life event of buying a house, and if you come into the details, you can see it's December 2023. Let me zoom in on this so that way you guys can see this a little bit better. December 2023, $300,000 house. She was going to do an FHA loan, so she would need about $12,000 for a down payment, and that's what she has in there. Okay, so those are all really the life events and goals that she was trying to go for. This next step, so if you guys don't know this, what we do at FitBUX first and foremost is you have to understand money in order to be financially free. One of the ways you understand it is understanding what the budget is for, which is organization, and you have to organize it correctly. And so we organize everything into three categories: my day-to-day money, money for future self, and risk management, which is basically insurances that protect your overall plan. Okay, so this first category is day-to-day money. You can see here that she's making about $78,000 a year, and you can see down here her expenses. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Like her rent's low because she has roommates. So by the way, one of her ideas was to buy a house and then rent out some of the rooms. Not a bad idea, right? She's not married, no kids or nothing. Might as well do that. So you can see nothing too bad on her day-to-day expenses. The only thing that I'll point out here is that she's got about 58% of her income going towards day-to-day expenses. Okay. Those of you that haven't been on our webinars and whatnot, oftentimes we talk about your number one focus is to get as much money as you can going to money for future goals. So right now, if she has 58% of her income going to day-to-day money, historically what I've seen in my research is that as people get their income increases, they have lifestyle creep. And so they keep 60% of their money going towards expenses, lifestyle creep, right? You don't want that. So one of like this person's goal, it's okay to have 58% because she's a new grad, cost of living is high, we get that, right? But over time, the goal is to get more and more of that percentage over to money for future self. So that's the only thing I wanted to point out on this day-to-day money piece, okay? Now, money for future goals, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is where the mistakes happen, and this is where we see a lot of people make mistakes, okay? Originally, her number one goal was to pay off her student loans, okay? And now she has another goal of saving for a down payment for a house, okay? Now, the problem with what she's doing is you can see here she's trying to save for the down payment for the house now. She's putting this towards savings and checking, but she's still trying to pay off her student loans aggressively, okay? And we always talk about focus, 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 focus. When people try to do too much, that's when things don't happen anymore, okay? So when I talked about earlier, a few minutes ago, your number one focus from a high-level planning aspect is to try to get more than 50% of your income going to the second category, money for future goals. That's number one. Number two is whatever your short-term goal is, whatever your number one goal is, that's what you go after. And so in her case, sorry, let me go back. I hit the wrong button. In her case, if her goal is to save for that down payment, instead of making a prepayment on her student loans right now, she should drop that down to the minimum and then put as much money as she can here, okay? And then once she has that money saved, then switch back to paying off her loans aggressively, okay? So that's the number one mistake. Number two mistake was she built this plan and she was trying to hit simulate it and it wouldn't simulate and she didn't know why, okay? When I come over here to look at this summary, you'll see over here, vacation fund money. Basically what this is we take our income and subtract out our day-to-day money, our money for future self, and our risk management. You see she's negative. You can't have negative cash flow, right? So right off the bat, like, you got to change something in this plan. So that's the second mistake she made. Now, the third mistake that we talk about is that oftentimes you'll want to put minimums in first, okay? One of the minimums that we talk about oftentimes is having a Roth IRA, okay? And at least putting $50 to $100 a month into a Roth IRA. We have this thing called retirement income diversification, i.e., you don't want all your money into one type of asset class because if taxes change over the next 30 years, which they will, and they change for that one asset class, you're screwed. So for example, I know a lot of people that have all their money tied up in real estate in California, and they just changed Prop 13 tax laws, and their cash flow is now drying up because of it, and now they're in retirement. It's like, oh shit. Not only that, but I forgot the exact number. It's a huge percentage. It's something like 40 or 50% of people in this country, all their money, their retirement money is in a 401k. If they change 401k tax laws, you're screwed. And so the goal would be to have multiple types of accounts that have different tax treatments. And so like in her case, her employer offers a 401k, get a Roth, and then she buys a house. Those are 3 different asset classes right there. Okay, so that's good. And so I'm going to go through this the way it should have been done, okay? So first of all, her 401k, you can see that her employer matches 3%. So that's the first minimum. Make sure you get that minimum, okay? Now, the second one is this Roth IRA. In her case, I'm going to put in a minimum of $50 a month. So that way she has that. And for the time being, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do $0 towards checking and savings because that's not a minimum. And then underneath my federal student loans, I'm going to put the minimum payment that I can make, okay? So now, that's the way you should do it first, is the minimums. So if my employer is offering some type of retirement match, make sure I'm getting that. Make sure I'm putting at least $50 a month to a Roth IRA. If I have debt, then only put the minimums on the debt. Now you can see over here, I got a lot of leftover money, right? Now, I go after my number one goal. So let's just say she didn't want to buy a house and all she was doing was paying off her student loans. Now she comes in here and she would put all that money towards her student loan. But her first goal now is to buy a house. So instead, she should be coming in here and saying, okay, well, what happens if I do $1,000 a month in here? And I click done. Well, I still have about $3,900 left over for fund money. Some of you might be saying that's too much. I don't need that much money. Others of you would say, yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to take a vacation and I got $4,000 to spend and I'm going to go enjoy my life. Okay, that's up to you. For this example, I'm just going to leave this be. So I'm going to hit next section. You can see in here the insurance that she pays for. There's some additional questions in here about emergency funds and whatnot. Don't need to do anything on this. We are going to simulate this plan and see what happens over time. So you see, the dark blue lines are FitBUX score. It drops. Why does it drop in the short run? It's because she's buying a house, which means she's adding on more debt and more risk, okay? But then you can see it quickly goes up. What this is doing is saying after she buys her house, it's then switching to paying off her debt aggressively. That's what we set on that last screen, is to pay off debt aggressively. So you can see by basically within about 10 years, I mean, she's over a 900, which is phenomenal. Okay, and that is awesome. Now, if we want to see what other details are in here, you can see that she hits all of her goals. 2023, she saved for the down payment. She ended up buying the house about a month later. So based on this plan, she wanted to buy the house by December 2023, just because of how much she's saving in her situation. It would have to be, she'd have to wait till 2024 until she had enough money, which is okay. It's only a month off. Her student loans would be paid off by 2035. Her mortgage would be paid off by 2041. I'll come back to that student loan piece in a minute. But over here, you can see what happens to her assets over time. So she would retire. And you can see here with net wealth, she would retire with about $2.6 million in net wealth. Okay, pretty good. You can also see investments and whatnot over time. If you want to break down the details, you can see that in about 10 years, she would have about $76,000 in retirement. Her primary house would be the bulk of her savings. But because she's paying off her student debt and everything, that's why this stays low. But you can see once she pays it off, boom, it jets up. So she's got a decent amount of cash also once she wants to retire, about $1.9 to $2 million. Fantastic, good situation, right? Now I brought up this debt piece, because she's buying the house, instead of aggressively paying off her loans, maybe she might want to go on IDR and go on loan forgiveness because she owes about $153,000. In her situation, I doubt she's going to do that because she really wants to pay off her loans. But that's a situation where you can actually go in and see what happens. To do that, I can't do it on this plan just because she has other examples already built. But all you have to do is go in, build my plan, and this button, if you had less than 3 plans, it would say build a new plan. I would just copy this other plan in here that I just did, buying a house, and then I would turn around and just change money for future self. So instead of paying off my loans, I'd put all that money towards savings, then I'd compare it. And in fact, you know what? Let me do this. I'll show you guys what this looks like right now. So in her case, like I said, you might want to come in and say, what happens if I go on IDR? So I can call this one IDR, buy house. Next, I'm going to reuse a plan. I'm going to use the buying a house plan. Next. So I don't have to do anything in here because it's already in here. So buying a house is already in there and everything. All I have to do is go down to money for future self. And I'm going to change this student loan down here to pay as you earn. And I'm going to make the minimum payment on this. And so you can see down here, it frees up a lot more money. So now I can save here a lot more aggressively. But maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I'm like, okay, well, what happens if I save more in my 401k or my Roth? Maybe for her, she actually wants to max out her Roth. Like I said, I rather focus on the first goal first. And so I'm going to put basically all that money that I'm saving into my savings account right now. Maybe I just want to be in a really good situation going into buying a house. I want to have way more than enough money in my bank account, which is a fantastic place to be. You don't want to nickel and dime yourself going into buying a house because expenses are always a lot more than what you think. All right, so there's the money going in there. Now I can come through here and actually simulate this as well. Let's see here. So you see we ended up buying the house on time in 2023. Assets 2.8 million. So now if I want to actually compare this side by side with the plan I just built, I could just come in here, click compare, and now I can see what happens over time. You can see with the score, buying a house on IDR in the short run, my score goes up quicker, but in the long run, it doesn't really matter in this situation. Why? What does this mean? Okay, you see down here with assets, being on IDR would give me more assets in the long run, but it's only about $200,000. So in 30 years from now, $200,000 sounds like a lot, but it's might not be that much. It might be like a year of expenses. Okay, so not that much. But the reason why my score goes up so quickly in the beginning is you can see underneath IDR that I have more money saved. Okay, not only that, but down here I'm using it to pay off my mortgage a lot faster. So you can see here that I have $116,000 left on my mortgage versus $237,000. Now, if I wanted to change that, like I said on that deal, like I wanted to pay off my mortgage after I got it, but let's just say I don't even want to pay off my mortgage. Let's just say I'd rather invest the money and I want to compare that. Again, I don't expect any of you guys to do this. I'm just showing you guys how she could have gone through this. Now I have $2.9 million. So I could come in here, compare plans, buy a house, IDR, and now I can see, okay, well, what about assets? Because down here on IDR, I'm just strictly investing. So by the time 2032 hits, if I'm trying to buy a house and pay off my loans, I have about $76,000 in retirement. Okay, here I have about $215,000 in retirement. And the reason being is because after I buy my house, all that money I put towards savings, now I'm starting to put it towards my 401k and my Roth IRA. And you can see here, I got about 1.7 million in retirement and about $500,000 in regular investments. So about 2.2 million at retirement in cash, plus I have my house. And so that's, again, that last part, I just wanted to show you guys how you can quickly mix and match and do a bunch of different things. The key thing I want you to take away from this is what I showed you in the very beginning with those three categories. Money for future self is the main one. Your number one goal, try to get as much money as you can to that situation there. But realize the mistake that she made where she was trying to do too many things at the same time. Okay. And if you saw on here, because she was trying to save for down payment on a house and pay off her student loans, that goal of buying a house in the first year, she wouldn't have met it. Okay. Where instead it's like, don't make the prepayment, focus on that number one goal, get that done, then go to the next one. Okay. And as you can see for her thing was buy the house. Once she buys the house, move that money back to paying off her student loans, pay that off. She hated debt. So her next thing was pay off the mortgage, and then she was going to invest afterwards. Great situation. But that's how you can go out and build out your financial plan. Like I said in the beginning, we're going to be doing more of these over time. So if you guys like them, make sure you leave a comment, say this was awesome. If there's a situation you want us to show you, let us know. Like I said, I'm going to try to put out, 1 or 2 of these a week to just show you guys different examples. We'll be talking to you soon.